Well, this has to be the hardest versus video I have so far made, because the two projects on today's list are in my top 10 all-time favorite projects, but most importantly, they solve the scalability trilemma in a very similar yet unique way via sharding, okay? We're gonna talk about that very briefly. I've made 30-minute plus videos on each of these projects discussing the unique sharding approach, so I'm not gonna go too far into it in this video. I'm just gonna give you an overall answer and result. But the main important thing is, guys, there will be one winner. How do we decide? Well, it's a 7-round bout. We could take them through the different sort of challenges, right from memetics and tech all the way through tokenomics. And of course, the winner of said round will keep their ring on that round. The loser will have theirs removed. Of course, Near Protocol, the defending champion in red, and MultiversX, the challenger in blue. So you guys can keep a good track on that. Now, you actually voted. I do one of these every single week for the upcoming week's versus video. And you said an astounding amount, 73% Near Protocol will win, 27% said MultiversX will win. So what I want you to do in my usual fashion is pause the video. Don't be one of them people that don't do this. Go down below, comment which one you think will actually win. And then really, if you want at the end of the video, just edit your comment and just tell me why you think that project won or lost, okay? There's no wrong answers. I don't want you guys to feel like you're gonna be embarrassed. You know, there's some level of subjectiveness in these videos. I mean, of course, facts are facts, but when it comes to technology, I have to make that final decision. So you might disagree, and that is okay. Round one, memetics and tech. So now, keep in mind, the meme I'm gonna say here is like boiled down to the bare bones minimum, okay? Near Protocol has very recently changed their whole meme or USP to a blockchain operating system, encompassing pretty much the whole entire Web3, right? They just do everything kind of like ICP, right? They want to be that first layer. Well, this is pretty much their meme. Now, over here to MultiversX, as you can probably imagine, theirs is being like multiverse. But of course, they also do enterprise-grade things as well. They're not just like fixated on just the multiverse. That's kind of just like their main sort of, you could say USP, okay? Now, again, the tech is their point of difference. I'm not going to go into it too much. I'll leave the two videos at the end of this video so you guys who are curious on the technical details can watch those two breakdowns. Essentially, Near uses thresholded proof of stake or threshold proof of stake, and MultiversX uses secure. In my opinion, I do prefer secure over threshold proof of stake. And they both use different types of sharding. Now, there's 3 different types of ways a network can be sharded: transaction, network, and state, state being the hardest. Near shards transaction and state, while MultiversX shards every single aspect. They shard transaction, network, and state. The most important thing is they are both adaptive and dynamic, meaning that they can grow and shrink with demand, okay? So they're not just like stuck at, you know, X amount of shards or whatever it might be. They can grow, they can contract and grow, right? Which is very, very good. Now, MultiversX has implemented something called sovereign shards, meaning anyone can spin up a shard on the network, okay? So you don't have to kind of like build an application on a shard, right? You can actually create your own shard as a business model, right? And they can manipulate the transaction speed, block times, finality, based on how many nodes they want to have on that shard. So it's very unique. It can be private, public, whatever it really needs to be, okay? So this is a very, very bullish feature on MultiversX's side. Now on Near's side, they have Aurora, which is like an EVM compatible environment permanently on Near as a permanent shard, okay? So I'm guessing that they'll probably allow a similar sort of mechanism in the future, but again, they don't really shard networks, so I'm not too sure how that will be possible. But the interesting thing is they're both WebAssembly compatible, and obviously they can build any language that is compatible with WebAssembly, right? Which is very, very flexible, and that is a big, big tick on both ends. Now, the interesting thing is MultiversX has a problem right now where the shards can get congested. The applications on each of these shards can build on whatever shard they want to. There's about 3 shards right now, aside from the main chain, okay? And there's a problem with this because we're finding that, at least at the time of review, that all applications are sort of building towards one shard, congesting that shard, and putting all the sort of stress on the network on that one shard. Near Protocol doesn't do that. 0 congestion on the shards. When they reshard, when they do this dynamic resharding, it actually flips around the applications on what shard is less used, okay? So the machine or the algorithm determines which shard isn't being used a lot and which is being overuse and moves the applications around. So I really, really like that. And again, I mean, both over time are going to develop and develop and develop to the point of they'll become very, very similar in terms of like the capabilities, all right? We're going to find a big discrepancy now. Near Protocol doesn't even have Nightshade, their actual sharding implementation, the complete package, even out right now. Whereas MultiversX does, they're just fine-tuning it, okay? Now the TPS, again, they're both dynamic, so they can grow with demand. But right now, Near can do about 100K TPS, and again, infinite, whereas the TPS on MultiversX is 5K per shard. But again, remember, the sovereign shards can spin up and do whatever they really like to. Okay, so just remember that. Now the finality, this is very important. The I stands for intra-shard, meaning transactions within the shard itself, and the C means for cross-shard transactions, okay? Now they're both 2-second finality on Near. Again, that's because they don't shard the network. Over here at MultiversX, they actually have a 20-second intra-shard transaction and a 52-second cross-shard transaction. So a lot slower, and that's again because they shard network and these guys don't, okay? Now security, right? So this is the staked total tokens in the network, 47% over here, 63%, so MultiversX takes that. There's 732 validators over here for Near and 3,200 for Multiverse. Obviously they dominate Near in that case. Now the average fee over here is significantly less than MultiversX. However, that to me is too cheap. That can actually pose a lot of dangers for the security of the network. And this actually is quite a good fee in my opinion. Now this is carbon neutral. Technically they're carbon negative, right? But the buzzword is neutral. And these guys are also carbon negative. So who wins the hardest possible round? Well, if you had a gun to my head, guys, and said, you have to pick one, my answer would be, shoot me in the head. I'm going to give them a tie. I've never done this before, and I told myself I would never do this. But honestly, you've got negatives and positives in each direction. So honestly, I really sat there for about 20 minutes and I couldn't pick. So that's my answer for round one. All right, guys, round two, we're talking social. So Near Protocol has 1.6 million followers on Twitter, opposed to 500,000 for MultiversX. Now, Telegram users, we have 48,000 opposed to 45,000, 3,000 online compared to 2,000, okay? Now, we have 24.6 million holders on Near Protocol and 2.2 million on MultiversX. Now, social mentions, all right, we have 2.5K versus 6.9K, 13 million versus 11 million, and 0.1% social dominance versus 0.31 rather. So, again, you're going to find with every single round from here on out, they have one is better than the other in some aspects, and the other is better than the other in other aspects. So, it literally will come down to how many wins they get and the weight of each of the actual wins themselves. So, in this case, Near Protocol wins. On-chain data, so the transfers since mainnet, as you can see, MultiversX just pulls ahead, okay? The interesting thing is both of these projects launched in 2020 and were founded in 2017. So this is a pretty fair game, right? Now the daily number of transactions for Near over a 12-month average is 464K versus 251K. Daily active users are a very important thing to look at. Again, we're looking at a 12-month average here, 37K over 18K. Now the top 100 wallets, how many of the top 100 wallets control the supply, okay? So 65% here versus 75%. So of course, that's better in Near's case. And over here, the revenue for the past 12 months, 487K versus 40K. So you guys can probably guess Near Protocol wins round three. Round four, let's check out the investors. Now, this isn't as important anymore for the rounds, but it is definitely important for us to kind of get a good valuation of the project, right? So let's be quick here. The investors for Near Protocol was 17 versus a total of 9 for MultiversX. The total funding came to about $34 million on Near versus 1.9. That's a very, very low amount. Again, doesn't really matter that much anymore. Just saying, right? The equity given, this is the more important part, okay? So Near gave out 23.7% of their total distribution to these investors, putting the valuation between these two stats at a $144 million project, okay? So obviously they've blown quite a bit past that right now. And the equity given on MultiversX's side was 19%, putting the valuation at a tiny $10 million. Now, the remaining vesting for Near is going to be, all these investors rather are going to have all their tokens in circulation come about October 2024 versus MultiversX having all of theirs out right now. So all of these holders, the 9 investors, have all their tokens already. So who wins this round, right? Well, Near Protocol has the better stats, but MultiversX wins, simply because right now, this don't matter anymore. So for me, I don't really mind too much if all of the investors have all their tokens for MultiversX, ultimately because by the time the bull market comes around, so will Near Protocols, okay? Ecosystem and TVL. This is probably the most important aspect of a network because a strong ecosystem indicates, a potentially strong user base, which obviously is how these networks function, okay? Now, I wanted to just put back in here, they have WASM, right, the WebAssembly state machines, which can pretty much run any language or lots of languages that are familiar with Web 2 developers. So I just needed to really reiterate that this was an aspect in both networks, okay? Now, the ecosystem size itself for Near Protocol is just under 1,100 projects, which is huge, versus about 400-ish. Now, I've got ish simply because MultiversX didn't actually have any figures I could use that were very simple to find. They only had like an ecosystem map. They actually had two. And I had to go painstakingly actually count them all by hand, which was very annoying. But I counted about 350-ish plus a whole bunch of NFTs, so it's 400-ish. Nevertheless, it's definitely less than Near, okay? Now, the TVL for the DeFi section is about 37 million for Near versus 104 million for MultiversX. Now, new contracts added over a 12-month average every single day is about 25 for Near and less than half of that for MultiversX. Why is that important? Well, again, if you have new smart contracts being created on the network, that's a good thing because that obviously means you're getting more applications built on a whole, which of course turns out to be more utility for the end users. Therefore, the end users want to put more money into the network. Now, the interoperability, right? So Near has a Rainbow Bridge or a direct connection itself to Ethereum. It also uses Aurora, which is an EVM compatible environment. Again, that's that shard that I was talking about earlier on. And also, it has a network called Octopus built as a series of smart contracts that connects to Cosmos and Polkadot, right? And from these two, it pretty much expands out to pretty much everything, right? Now, on the MultiversX side, they actually have, I think it's called Change. I don't know how to actually pronounce it, finance, that connects it to Bitcoin, ETH, BSC, so on and so forth. So pretty much in terms of interoperability, I would probably say they're about the same. But if I'm going to be sort of pessimistic here, or at least just think completely objectively what my gut feeling says, I'm going to say Near's better, but I definitely didn't rate it that way. Nevertheless, I still said that Near Protocol wins round 5. All right, it's time for devs, guys. This one's always a very, very quick and easy one because they're just simple to look at, right? So devs full-time on Near, 160 versus 51. Monthly active devs, 618 versus 123. And total commits, 2.1 versus 344K. Obviously, that is a straight win to Near Protocol. One more round left, guys. And as you can see from the chart behind me, there's no way in hell that MultiversX can win this. But let's just see if it's a total blowout or if they can kind of come back with a little bit more dignity. Let's talk tokenomics, right? There is a 5% inflation rate for Near Protocol right now, which will be infinite, meaning it will just continually be 5% for as long as the network is alive, versus MultiversX being currently 6%, but it is diminishing year on year up until 2030. So there will be a point in time where there will be no more inflation because there is a finite supply of tokens. Now let's talk staking / delegation, okay? So right now it's about 9%, and this does change. It is variable for Near Protocol, and it's also variable right now for MultiversX at 9.7%. So technically speaking, Near has a better reward ratio versus MultiversX, but again, this is diminishing, and I didn't include this, but MultiversX has an ability where you can actually stake or bond your tokens to individual applications on the network, which will then give you in the 20/30% APY, okay? So obviously this is just native. I'm not talking about ecosystem based, okay? Now, there is a 1 billion max supply for Near Protocol. This was the TGE or token generation event. They were obviously distributed accordingly. And again, it is infinite, okay? So it will eclipse the 1 billion tokens once they are all in circulation from the vesting. Now over here, MultiversX, we have a 31.4 million max supply, which is finite, meaning again, it will stop at that. So when you're talking about a time to buy, right? Again, this is about $34 right now, I think, right? Look at Bitcoin, right? 21 million max supply, 31 million max supply. So you imagine when the demand shoots up for MultiversX, there's going to be a huge supply crunch, right? It's just going to go parabolic, essentially, okay? Now, the market cap for Near Protocol right now is about 1.6 billion versus 1 billion, but there is more trading volume happening on Near, and the ratio is better, right? 1 to 28 versus 1 to 42. Now, this, again, isn't that important, at least right now. We're in a bear market. but it sometimes is a good indication the ecosystem is flourishing, okay? And there obviously is more applications on Near protocol right now. Now, there is a burn rate for Near, and there isn't one for MultiversX. Now, this is important because eventually, and that's a massive 70% by the way, eventually it will eclipse the inflation rate, meaning there will be enough transactions processed at a 70% of them being burned that it will eventually eclipse that 5%. So there won't be even an inflation. The network will eventually be deflationary, but I definitely think MultiversX is the better option in this case because there is such low amount of tokens, right? So low. They're almost all out now, and the token is so cheap. In my opinion, it's going to beat a deflationary network at 1 billion max tokens because right now, at least Near predicted, that there'll have to be about 1.25 billion transactions on the network per day, which is about 11K TPS throughout the whole entire 24-hour period for the network to be deflationary. So yeah, I believe price action will be so much better for MultiversX. Now, the actual individual sovereign shards that I was talking about earlier in the video, they can create their own token economies as well. So keep in mind, demand will be a lot, but technically speaking, you know, it won't fully be encapsulated within the EGLD or the native token for MultiversX. I don't want to confuse you guys what I'm saying here. Essentially, there is trade-offs for both, okay? So who wins round 7? Well, MultiversX does take the win, but of course, still the winner and the undisputed champion, we have Near protocol, right? So guys, that is going to do it for today's video. Again, I love both of these projects. It was so hard for me to pick. And the 2 videos on screen right now should hopefully quench your thirst. If you do want to learn more about each project, go ahead and watch those. They're the complete deepest dives you can possibly find on YouTube. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Appreciate you all, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.